He was charged after the man's body was found inside of the storage locker?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll amend the charges once they kind of figure everything out. But they probably believe that they got their guy for whatever reason. They're not going to release all the information out there. There could be another person involved, and you're not going to release every bit of information to set someone in a different direction if you let someone know that they also might be involved. So they just release the minimum amount of information.
Okay, this comes, by the way, from WBZ TV News, and there it is. He was living inside of his storage unit when he died, and my thinking would be this, and I know that we've talked about this before, but here's my plan. I kill someone.
Yeah.
I bring him to a storage locker. I have previously purchased a freezer. I carry them in at night, and I put them in the freezer, and I plug it in, and I leave it there, and I just pay my electricity for 30 years or till I die. They don't discover it until then.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect crime. And
possibly.
Well, that's good.
I'd have to disguise myself. I'd have to find a car that they wouldn't identify as being mine.
You steal a car. Go ahead.
Steal a car. Find somebody to do some prosthetic work on my face, a makeup artist, or maybe somebody who's a little more advanced than that. It's a theater person. Mm-hmm. And then I wrap the dead body around, and then I don't have to worry about the whole ice pick thing. Or I could just. In other words, I wouldn't stab him with an icicle and then wait for it to melt.
Wait, what? What?
Yeah. Okay.
Stab him with an icicle.
I'm gonna start. All right. To kill somebody.
Okay.
All right. You stab him with an icicle.
Okay.
The icicle melts. There's no murder weapon.
Okay.
There were no fingerprints on the murder weapon because it's gone.
Okay.
There's no murder weapon. Then you wrap the body up in plastic.
Okay.
And then you wrap that in a rug, a cheap rug from like a yard sale, so that there's no proof of purchase.
Okay.
All right. Then you steal the car.
Yeah.
You do the makeup. So the video cameras that see you, the security cameras, will only see somebody entering the locker.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll figure out that you used your code. So that's one thing, but that's pretty advanced. And then you go to the storage locker, and there's nobody around at night. There are the cameras. They see somebody putting a
rug in there.
Yeah, just a rug. Very, very heavy, very, very heavy rug. And you put the body into the storage locker, and as long as you pay your electricity, it's never going to smell. No one's going to really think about the storage locker. It's just another abandoned storage locker.
I'm running through my head if there's enough evidence to at least charge you with the crime right now.
No.
I don't know what the crime is. It's got to be a crime.
No, there's no victim.
There's no crime at all?
No crime actually
yet?
done. It's all theoretical. It's all theoretical, but that would work.
Yeah, it probably could work. Probably, yeah.
But of course, it brings us to our next point.
What's that?
Throwaway victims.
Oh, throwaway victims would usually are described as when people, I use serial killers for an example, they'll typically murder prostitutes, homeless people, runaways, people who don't have a connection to society. I could be a serial killer in Florida, and there's 20 runaways from throughout the country. They all go down to Florida, hanging out at a park, and I decide to, kill a couple of them. Who are they? Who are they connected to? Who's going to report them missing?
Yeah.
What's their connection to anyone?
And I just want to say this, for the sake of the podcast, I would never kill somebody like that. I would never kill just for the sake of killing.
Well, yeah, the term throwaway victims.
Yeah, but that's a throwaway victim. So if I wanted to kill just for the sake of a thrill kill,
yeah.
Is that the reason I'm guessing most homeless people either die because they get into a beef with another homeless person.
I think a lot of them have alcohol and drug issues and stuff like that.
So they die of natural, unnatural causes.
Yeah.
But I mean, when they're murdered, are any homeless people ever murdered for reasons besides either a beef with another homeless person or a thrill killing?
Wow. Well, those are some of the biggest factors. I mean, domestic situations. I mean, could they be involved with another very attractive homeless bag lady, and you guys are fighting over? I don't know.
A homeless romantic triangle, Nathan.
I regret giving you my $5 and now I want it back. So therefore, I'm going to have to murder you for it.
You know something? It's about survival. You know, that $5 or that loaf of bread or whatever. It means a lot more to them than for you than thousands of dollars would mean for you. For me, for tens of thousands would mean. No, I don't know. Millions would mean for me because now I've got my $12.8 million from the
there you go.
JFK International Airport. But anyway, and it really is a difference. It's a difference in the way that.
Well, it's a lot of times when you see a lot of these crimes where they might find 10 or 11, 12 bodies dumped somewhere. It's been going on for 4 or 5 or 6, 7 years. No one knows about it because no one knows that people are missing because they're not connected to anyone.
Well, it's like transients.
Yeah, transients. Yeah. No one knows where are they from. Who are they? Who knows who they are? No one knows who they are.
Well, it's funny because this is the reason why.
The odds of getting caught if you're the bad guy are slim. They're slim, or the odds of getting caught right away are slim.
Yeah,
because it might go 4 or 5 years before someone figures out, oh my God, there's 7 young girls, prostitutes that aren't on the street anymore. And then someone like yourself, Dave, will be like, there's 7 girls I dated in the last couple of months and they're not here anymore. And you might report yourself.
Right. Or I might report Nathan.
Yeah.
Who knows? So we understand now that throwaway victims are the ones that you're going to, if you simply wanted to get away with a crime, a throwaway victim would be the victim you'd want to pick. You wouldn't want to pick somebody you had been in a relationship with. You certainly wouldn't want somebody who would, you mean
the young kid walking home from school, or the mother going out to get some groceries and doesn't return home.
There's more value with those because they're seen as innocent victims. Is that why?
More value with absolutely.
Let's say this. I've got my plan. I don't really have a victim picked, but I will eventually. Probably there are some comedians that, it's their time, Nathan. People who, anyway. So Nathan, let's say you're gonna commit a crime.
Yeah.
You're gonna commit the perfect crime. You obviously don't want to start with the person where they come up and they say, well, is there anybody that you know that he had a beef with? And you'd be like, Nathan Arroyo. You don't want to pick that guy.
Of course.
You want it to be somebody like that you're not, I don't know. You'd have to get a throwaway victim. So, and you wouldn't want to have somebody, so you wouldn't want to have, as you say, a kid, because the community
would be an uproar.
Yeah. There'd be an uproar. There'd be a lot of publicity.
I'll just choose an ugly kid that no one likes looking at.
Believe it or not, even ugly children
have parents and people that like them.
They have parents that love them, and that's the thing. I know it's hard for you to believe, but they're even ugly children. Somebody thinks they're beautiful. We should have put this on the ABC after school special. Anyway, so this is an interesting one. This is another case. And speaking of, this guy seemed to be picking his victims out kind of randomly. It's a cold case from 1982. And the guy who was arrested, and this is, I think, a DNA thing, his name was Alan Lee Phillips of a place called Clear Creek County in Colorado. And he was arrested earlier this year. Two counts of first-degree kidnapping, 2 counts of first-degree assault, and 2 counts of first-degree homicide in the deaths of Barbara Jo Oberholzer and Annette K. Schnee, hitchhikers. So
hitchhiking, back in the day, hitchhiking was huge. Not anymore.
Back in the day when we could do it.
Yeah, when you can do it.
Do you think hitchhiking is more dangerous now than it was, or do you think I
haven't seen a hitchhiker in 20 years.
Yeah.
People don't hitchhike anymore.
Nobody hitchhikes?
I haven't seen any.
Okay. Yeah, we used to do it all the time. I hitchhiked down to Florida when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, you're lucky. You're just lucky. Because if I was I'd look at you, I'd say, very easy target.
The murderer looked at you and said, this kid's not cute enough. No one's going to care if I take it. No one's going to give a shit.
But these, this is an interesting thing. These two women were shot.
Well, it's the DNA evidence. They obviously, the crime scene at that point, 30, 40 years ago, they did a good crime scene. At some point at the crime scene, they found hair follicles left at the scene. They could have been a fingerprint. They could have
Jizz.
some jizz.
Jizz.
Commonly referred to in the criminal justice
Jizz.
semen.
Yes, semen.
So they had that, and they they did a DNA analysis years later, and that individual at some point got his DNA into the CODIS system, which is a law enforcement system, which they have DNA throughout the country, or they could have gone through ancestry.com. At some point, they did that analysis, and that person came up as a potential suspect. They focused on that person, and then through good investigatory practices that good cops do, they were able to pinpoint him for the murders, all because of the DNA that was taken 40 years ago. They didn't even know about DNA 40 years ago.
These two women hitchhiking. They don't say where they're from. They weren't connected. They just happened to be in the same area, and this guy was just out prowling, and he was out hunting, and he found a hitchhiker, boom, victimized her, and then found another one. I also think they don't mention, I could be wrong, but I didn't see it here, they didn't mention where the two victims were from. If they were from Colorado or what. But they were seen hitchhiking in Colorado, so... were they, if they were going cross country, if you're going cross country as in a hitch and somebody picks you up,
yep,
you've got an excellent chance of never being seen again.
Yeah. If you're a random one person,
but if you're local and you're somebody who hitchhikes around or you were somebody back then, it was commonplace to hitchhike from one place to another.
You just don't know. Obviously they were connected. So when they went missing, someone said something about it, and they reported it, and they either had IDs on them, and they were identified, and so everything worked out. So they weren't the throwaway type victim.
Yeah, and it's the other interesting thing about it was same day in 1982 they were abducted.
Yeah,
separately.
Yep.
So it was a good day.
Creepy.
For that kidnapper, it must have been a good day for him.
He was 2 for 2. Else. 2 for 2.
Yeah. What a horrible thing.
That's crazy.
And this goes to cold case, and people think that cold cases can all be solved by DNA.
Absolutely not.
Right, and that a lot of it is a crime lab can't investigate every crime the way they do on CSI.
No, and you have to, when you're talking cold cases, you have to go back to the first cops or first investigators on scene 20, 30, 40 years ago, and what evidence did they actually take from the scene, and what evidence was actually left at the scene. If there's no evidence, no DNA evidence or anything like that, then obviously 40 years later, you're still not going to get DNA. But so a lot of these cases that are solved usually because the cops on scene 20, 30 years ago did a really good job. And then as technology advanced down the line, and as more people were put into the DNA database and Ancestry.com, sites like that have, DNA, millions and millions of samples, and law enforcement officers can get warrants and subpoenas to get information from those companies. So that's all it is. As the database gets built with more DNA, more people who committed crimes that left DNA at crime scenes are going to be convicted and found out.
And I'm just looking at this, and there's a Denver Post report on the story that said the two women worked in the same city, Breckenridge. Whether or not they worked together, it's not clear. But so they were local. These two women were local, and so they probably were people that. It was
back then, hitchhiking was kind of like the norm. It was an acceptable practice.
Yeah, it was. It's what do you and I don't know. Is it funny? Is it less safe than it was, or is it just that we have more awareness of how dangerous
people would just probably look back and say, "What the hell were we doing hitchhiking? How nutty is that? You're just getting at someone's car. It's no different than Uber." Uber
Yeah.
and Lyft is the same thing as hitchhiking. You just call someone 2 a.m, you're hammered.
Yep.
You're a single girl coming out of a bar, and a car rolls up, and black SUV, and you jump in.
Yeah.
That's just as crazy.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say it's just as